Welcome everybody. This is your host Jerry Getka. I'm here this morning on the deck of the U.S. Constellation. I can see the cannons all around, and you can hear the noises all around of the ambulances, the helicopters, and all the people touring the boat. Our guest today is Dr. Kathleen White from the Maryland Commission for Women. We'll be right back.
USS Constellation. There's a grand lady in Baltimore who has taken her rightful place as the Inner Harbor's crown jewel in the heart of the Chesapeake Bay. The ship you see here, the sloop of war Constellation, was built at the Gosport Navy Yard in Portsmouth, Virginia, and launched in 1854. A newspaper account from the day of her launch reported that there were 8 pieces of the original frigate Constellation contained within her timbers in existence. That's enough history for now. Let's see what happens when you come aboard Constellation.
When you come on board, cell phones and everything don't work anymore. This turns into the 1860s and you are back in time on the Constellation learning what it was like to be here.
People come on board and they get touched by this walking through history that they're able to do, and they're able to see the hammocks and see the officer's wardroom and sit in the captain's cabin and have this whole immersive experience that you're never going to get at most types of museums. So this is a really wonderful experience for them, and they have no idea what they're missing out on, and then they come on board and they keep coming back.
We fire the cannon, turn the capstan, and ring the bell daily, and we recommend the free self-guided audio tour, which comes in 2 flavors, one perfect for children, the other for adults. Plus, there's the ever-popular Powder Monkey Tour for kids and hands-on adult tours like A Ship as a Machine and Black Sailors in Navy Blue. Groups can also come aboard and sling their hammocks in our overnight program or host special events. Our crew knows the USS Constellation is an amazing experience, but don't just take our word for it. Here's what recent visitors had to say.
It's very kid-friendly, very family-oriented, and the kids will love it, and they'll come out asking questions, which I love.
It transports you back. You can almost get the feel that you were actually there, because laying in that hammock, like, oh my goodness.
I think it's really interesting because it shows you exactly how they slept and how they ate and how they went through life.
Welcome back everybody. This is your host Jerry Getka, top of the morning show. Our guest, Dr. Kathleen White from the Maryland Commission for Women. We've had quite a few of the commissioners on the air at the present time. Tell us, how did you become a commissioner? Why did you become a commissioner? And how long have you been a commissioner?
Okay, I became a commissioner actually in 2008.
Okay.
And I was appointed to that position, and the reason why I became a commissioner is because I've always been interested into civic activities as well as serving the communities, and as an educator I've always been very much interested in seeing how communities can grow and how I can assist.
That's very ambitious, it seems to me. Do you feel like you've accomplished any of your goals so far? Did you set goals when you first became a commissioner?
Well, actually, when I first became a commissioner in 2008, the goal, of course, first was to see what was going to be some of the issues that women were having within the state of Maryland, and once I was able to identify what those were, we were able to work cohesively together to ensure that there were certain goals that each of us wanted to make sure that women were going to be having information about. And serving as a conduit of giving out information to the women in Maryland, one of the things that we worked towards previously when we had foreclosures that were going on within the state of Maryland. The Maryland Commission for Women, we were able to put together a wonderful symposium in Prince George's County. At Prince George's Community College there, and as a result of that, women received a wealth of information that not only just dealt with foreclosures but also domestic violence. It dealt with litigation in terms of wages in which women were not being equitably having funding for. We also looked at health issues that women were having and how those health issues can be addressed, and education. So the symposium covered a number of activities that women were involved in, and it also helped, and as a result of the survey we were able to receive, we saw that women felt as though they were inspired and that they gained a wealth of information as a result of the symposium. Since 2008, of course, as a commissioner, you serve for 4 years.
Okay.
And then my term was up in 2012. And of course, I was reappointed in 2012 for another 4-year term. And so, yes, in terms of answering your first question about whether or not all of my goals have been achieved, no, they have not, because I'm still working towards making sure that all women received all of the information, because we know that's an ongoing process and that women issues are an ongoing process.
Do you keep any numbers on how many women you actually reach during the course of a year or something of that nature?
I'm sure that we do have some data that has been resolved in reference to that.
I can only imagine, I can't imagine at this point in time, with all the things that the Top of the Morning Show has been doing for the Commission on Women, that many women, at least in Baltimore City, have not at least heard of the Maryland Commission for Women at this point in time. So I'm assuming that your outreach is becoming fairly successful.
I would think that our outreach is very successful. Every year, we are committed to completing an annual report that goes to our governor. And
that becomes public information, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely. So as a result of that, that becomes public information as to what we are doing in each one of the areas that we are held accountable for as commissions for women.
Now, aside from your work with the Maryland Commission for Women, you also work with a lot of other organizations. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Tell us about that a little bit.
I work with Women Power, as well as the Maryland Association for Community and Continued Education, and the GEMS Incorporated. All of these are, well, the first one I mentioned, Women Power, is a women organization committed to empowering women in reference to politics. The second organization, which is the Maryland Association for Community and Continued Education, deals with adult literacy in the state of Maryland.
Is that an issue still these days?
Yes, it is. It continues to be an issue. Although in Maryland, we are, as everyone knows, one of the most highly educated states, we still do have pockets in which we have people who have not received the education that they need to in terms of being able to be employed at the level in which they need to have employability skills in place.
Okay.
And the third organization I'm involved with is Le GEMS Incorporated.
Now, what does that translate to, Le GEMS?
It really translates to the gems, which is really a diamond.
Okay.
And as diamonds, what we basically do is that we work within our communities. This is a nonprofit educational organization that is nationwide, and we work towards cultural events as well as working with civic events within the communities. We do scholarships for underprivileged children, and we also make sure that we identify on an annual basis families who may be in need of food and other items to be comfortable within their surroundings.
The diamonds. Now, is that something you have to work your way up to? I mean, do you start as a smaller gemstone?
No, actually, once you become on board as a gem, you are a diamond, because we know that you have the commitment level there to make a difference within your community.
I had never heard of any of these organizations. Now, these are all organizations in Maryland?
Yes.
Wow. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
they provide to inspire the young girls and women and the young boys to learn to respect and admire and be full partners with the women and girls person.
Wonderful evening. It's so inspiring and uplifting to see these honorees who contribute greatly to our state. Just very uplifting and inspiring.
To welcome Jill Moss Greenberg to the podium. Jill is the Executive Director of the Maryland Women's Heritage Center. There is an enormous plaque that used to be housed at the Maryland Women's Law Center before the Maryland Women's Heritage Center came into being and found a place of its own. And it was moved from the Law Center over to the Maryland Heritage Museum. So this is the first time we've been able to actually present you with this plaque, Jill. This is the plaque for this year, which will now go on the larger one and will reside at the Maryland Women's Heritage Center.
This is exciting for all of you who've supported the Women's Hall of Fame, the Maryland Commission for Women, the women legislators, who just for everyone's information, this is their 40th anniversary, and we had the very first women's caucus of any state legislature in the country. So we have many things to be proud of.
Welcome back, everybody. Your host, Jerry Getka, for Top of the Morning. I'm here with Dr. Kathleen White from the Maryland Commission for Women and a number of other organizations as well, including Les Gems, the Diamonds. I can picture you as a diamond, you know.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you are a product of the Baltimore City school system. That means you grew up around here locally?
Absolutely, I did. I grew up actually in South Baltimore.
Tell us a little bit about your background, your upbringing.
Absolutely. I grew up here in South Baltimore. I am, of course, the baby of 5 children, and all girls. And I graduated from Southern High School. After graduating from Southern High School, I then chose to go into education and went to Coppin State University. It's Coppin State University now, but it was Coppin State College then. And I received my bachelor's degree in special education. Stayed there for another year and received my master's degree in education. So by the age of 22, I was teaching at a community college, as well as teaching within a public school system in Baltimore City.
Now that brings you up to adulthood already. I want to know about some of the fun things you did when you were younger.
Oh, some of the fun things that I did. Oh my, I like dancing.
Okay.
I call myself a very avid dancer. And I like doing all types of dance. I like ballroom dancing.
So we have a wooden deck here. You could do a little break dancing here, maybe?
Oh, I'm not too good at that part.
Me either.
Not too good with the break dancing piece, but I enjoy dancing. I am also a swimmer. I was a swimmer in high school.
You don't swim in the harbor, do you?
No, I don't swim in the harbor, but I still do aerobic swimming. I also like writing. I'm a wonderful writer, I like to think. I've just completed a children's book. I've just completed a children's book. I'm waiting to get it published, and it's entitled Acorns Are Not for Sale.
All right, so you've written a children's book. Are you going to stay with children's novels, or are you going to go into other things?
I anticipate I will just start with children's novels, but I would like to venture out into writing some fiction.
Okay. Political expose or some kind, or
well, actually, I have
spy novel.
That could be a possibility.
That could be fun.
Yes.
That could be fun. Now, your background in terms of writing, does this come from your education at Coppin, or?
It has come from something I've always enjoyed doing from a very young child. I used to write a lot of poems, and I wrote poetry. I wrote some fiction before.
Now, do you, like most artists, write about your life and things that happened to you? So there's something secretive in your life in this new book coming out about?
Actually, in this new book coming out, it's not anything secretive, and it's not about my life, but it is about the life of children and some of the experiences that they go through.
So observations and things that you've heard along the way.
Yeah.
What has inspired you to do all of these things that you're involved in?
I get my inspiration from my grandmother, who worked for a number of years as a housekeeper, but she had a lot of tenacity and a lot of willpower, And I've always been inspired by her ability to be such a humble person and to be able to know how to work and really work with people. And so I think that she inspired me to do that, along with my mom, who kind of like carried that along. And then I'm also inspired by my dad.
It sounds like there's a book already in the story about your grandmother.
Yes, yes.
I'd like to read that book. That sounds pretty interesting. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were talking about your dad.
Yes, and my dad was another person who I enjoy a lot of inspiration from. Again, with his strong work ethic, I believe that it's because of his work ethic that I've been able to sustain myself in education for over 30 years. So a combination of all of those inspirational people in my life have been wonderful. And along the way, of course, I've had some other people who I definitely inspire as role models.
Now, were your parents and grandparents also from Baltimore, or did they come from somewhere else? I detect almost a hint of an accent of some kind.
People often tell me that, but actually I grew up here in the Baltimore area.
Right.
But my parents were reared from North Carolina.
There it is. That's where we hear it from.
That's where you hear it from.
That's where we hear it from. Have you ever do you still have family down there?
No, unfortunately not.
No, I often wonder about finding family. My grandparents were from Poland, so to try and find family, it's very difficult sometimes.
And you were asking me about some other people who inspired me.
Yes,
and
please.
I was also inspired by Maya Angelou, who I've read her poetry from very early on, and have always been interested into seeing how words connect and how they make people move and feel, and how we can really escape through words and have our minds go into places where we think we would just only dream of being.
Wow, that sounds pretty deep. I think you lost me a little bit there.
That's the writer piece of me coming out.
That's good. That's good. That's a good thing. Because I could actually hear, as you were talking about Maya Angelou, you're finding something in that actually means something seriously to you. Mm-hmm. You also are involved with the Women's Heritage Association, correct?
Yes, the Maryland Women's Heritage Center is a wonderful, wonderful place where we have an opportunity to really to display the work that women have done within the state of Maryland. And because of us having the Heritage Center with the Maryland...
They're whistling here on the USS Constellation and telling us something true.
With the Maryland Heritage Center, we're able to see the wonderful contributions that have been made by women in Maryland. Like, I especially love all the work of the Maryland Women's Heritage Center, and especially the work of Jill Moss Greenberg.
Hold on 1 second and get ready for the big bang.
Now, as a warship, we have some pretty important things that make us a warship. Anybody have any idea what they might be? The guns, exactly. So, we are a 22-gun sloop of war. Now, what the word sloop of war means that all of our broadside guns are on the gun deck below us. And the 22 part means obviously we have 22 guns. So of those 22 guns, 4 of those, which would be on the gun deck, basically in the 4 corners of the ship, would be our 32-pound long guns. Those guns are smooth bore, they're not rifled, and basically we use them to shoot the rigging and things. About 2/3 of a mile in the range for those. In addition to those, we would have 16 8-inch chambered shell guns. The 8-inch chambered shell gun uses 14 men plus a ship's boy. Ship's boys are young men between the ages of 11 and 17 that would be basically serving on the ship. Your parents would volunteer you for the Navy. The Navy's going to feed, clothe, and educate your children for 1 voyage or up to 3 years. Usually 3 years happens before the end of one voyage. And then once you guys turn of age, you're going to have something you know how to do, so you can go to sea and be a sailor and have a job, have a career. So 14 men and a boy for each one of those 8-inch chambered shell guns. The 8-inch chambered shell gun uses a 9-pound black powder charge, fires a 52-pound exploding shell, 8 inches in diameter, about the size, a little bit smaller than a bowling. We don't have any hazards, and then we'll begin firing. Again, I'll give the command ready like this. When we're ready to fire, you can cover up if you'd like. Attention below in the captain's cabin. If you're in the captain's cabin, get out. And to make sure we don't have any water taxis coming. Looking pretty good at the moment. On the 20-pound part rifle, prepare to fire! I didn't say ready yet. Make ready! Fire! Ow, my arm! And there you have it, folks. Thank you very much. And of course, you're only clapping because nobody's shooting back at you. So if you folks have any questions or anything, I'd be happy to answer them. If you like, we do have a donation box inside. Keep in mind, I just spent about $10 of the ship's money. It doesn't go to paying my salary. It helps with upkeep, restoration, and doing presentations for the public. We also, there may be some comment cards in there. If you liked what I did here today, my name is Chief Nat, N-A-T. Feel free to write a comment, drop it in the box. If you didn't like what I said here today, I encourage you to take one home with you. Fill it out in detail. Mail it in, care of the USS Constitution. Have a great day, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Thank you, folks.
Hi, we're with Linda Shevitz today. Linda is with the Maryland State Department of Education, but she's been a national leader on issues of gender equity and prejudice reduction, and she's being inducted today into the Maryland Women's Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a real honor and privilege.
Well, could you tell us a little bit about maybe what in your life might have led you to these wonderful achievements?
I think from the very beginning I was very active in school and different activities, and then in high school I became real active with the B'nai B'rith Youth Organization, which did a lot of civil rights work and a lot of citizenship work and community work. And I think that kind of sparked me. I became active on the national level, went to the national conference, went to an international conference in Israel for 6 weeks, and our focus was really on civil and human rights, and that's what kind of got me really dedicated.
Yeah, and you never left that dedication.
No.
Would you talk a little bit about the work that you've done on women's history, because the Hall of Fame is obviously a great example of that. We know that you coordinated the Maryland Women's History Project and are program director for the Maryland Women's Heritage Center.
Yes, I was lucky when I started working at the Maryland State Department of Education. Jill Moss Greenberg had started and initiated with the Commission for Women a Women's History Project. And I was fortunate enough to come in and adopt it, and had the biggest pleasure. For 20 years we prepared kits for every school in the state, and my family used to laugh at me. I'd come home and say, I just interviewed and met the nicest, most terrific woman, Maryland woman, so I really learned a lot from that. So it was just a pleasure each year. We've focused on a certain area, like women in the arts, women in the suffrage movement, women in law, women in science and medicine, and it just opened my eyes tremendously to the range of contributions that Maryland women have made, past, present, and future.
You have to excuse us a little bit because there's some noise behind us, and that's the crowd coming in for the induction ceremony for the Women's Hall of Fame. Maybe we could talk a little bit more, though, about what do you feel most proud of in the achievements that you've had throughout your life?
I guess the few things, one, the Title IX, being in charge of monitoring the civil rights law that prohibits sex discrimination in education, and I've been doing it for 30 years, the longest serving Title IX coordinator at any state education agency. It's just amazing how many changes Title IX has made in opening areas to girls. It's for boys and girls, but particularly opening career areas for girls. Hillary Clinton has talked about it a lot. She had us at the White House for the 25th anniversary. This is the 40th anniversary of Title IX. And every area, from rights of pregnant students to admissions to different programs, and athletics has gotten so much press that it shows there were more women at the Olympics this year than men for the first time. So the pride in all of those accomplishments, and every school system has a Title IX coordinator who also does things within their own system.
If you had some personal words that you'd like to leave for the young people coming up, now I know you have a grandson, but I know that you have words for him as well as for the young girls coming up.
Yes.
Would there be any words that you would like to share and leave as a legacy?
I think it's true for both boys and girls to be interested in the accomplishments of both men and women and young boys and girls. But Margaret Mead once said, "Never doubt that a small group of concerned, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And I think that if people find what it is that is important to them, to their families, their communities, and to society at large, and to know that we can all do it in any way that we can, and that's the legacy we want to leave.
One of the jewels in your crown is the Maryland Women's Heritage Center, which was a national first.
We were fortunate enough to still be working together on so many things, and Jill and I kind of got it started. She was the original founder, but it has been just a tremendous achievement. We've had so many people come by. Only 15 states have Halls of Fame, and the Hall of Fame is now in the Heritage Center. But I think the other thing is the unsung heroines, that we not only look at Hall of Fame inductees, but we look at all the contributions that women have made from diverse backgrounds in so many areas. And it is just, it's a love and a joy for not only us, but everyone that comes through visiting Maryland seems to really appreciate what the Heritage Center has done.
For all of us, and express special appreciation to you from everyone who works at the Women's Heritage Center and at the State Department of Education, because you've made a tremendous difference, and I know you will continue to do that.
Well, we've talked quite a bit about the Maryland Commission for Women, the educational aspect of it. We've learned a little bit of who you are as a person, an accomplished writer, a educator, and many other things. I'm afraid we're going to have to say goodbye now, because our audience is getting ready to say time to go on. So we're going to say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye,
Thanks for being our guest today. And everybody, Maryland Commission for Women.
Thank you.
Something you should know about. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So welcome aboard USS Constellation and enjoy your visit to the historic sites of the Chesapeake Bay Gateways Network.